morning, everybody. If you could take out your Common Core standards for me, please. We're just going to kind of review what we're going to be doing today. I really think it's important as a strategy to share the Common Core language with students because they deserve to know what they are learning. If you can go to the language standards, we're going to be looking at language standard number 5A. And I told you this is going to be like crazy because if you don't have background in mythology or the Bible, it's very, very difficult to achieve this standard. You want to answer the how and the why and the what of learning as much as possible. They come in and they need to know what they're doing, why is it important, how are they going to use it later in life, how it transfers to other places, because that is the best way to get them engaged in the process. You're going to interpret figures of speech like literary, biblical, and mythological allusions in context. And I told you we were going to talk about that in Old Man and the Sea. We actually are going to start talking about it today. You tell them, this is the Common Core language. They say that I need to teach theme, blah, 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 and you kind of read it through them. Okay, so everyone take out the Common Core. This is how I'm going to do it, and this is why you need to know theme. And then I always try to relate it back to them. And so when they get to see the Common Core language, they know I am accountable to something. I think that we owe it to them that this job is not a joke. This is not something that I did because I couldn't do anything else. You know, I could have done anything else, and I chose this because I feel like this is where I belong, and I want them to know that I take my job very seriously. It's an indirect or passing reference. This is the cover of Twilight. What is this a reference or an indirect, innuendo to? Why is she holding an apple? Talk about it at your tables. 1 second. I want everyone to have the answer. She is not hungry. No, that's very literal. We have to think.
She's doing something she shouldn't be.
Oh. 10 years from now, they will know that I really, really cared about them learning those Common Core standards, that it wasn't a joke to me, that it wasn't something I felt like it was imposed on me by Big Brother. This is something that I am supposed to teach, this is something that I will teach, and this is something that you will learn, even if I have to throw a kid on the table. He's physically looking crucified on the cross. Excellent job, Jack. Round of applause for our buddy here. Goodness gracious.
I use the Common Core language with my students every day. Today's objectives were a variation on the Common Core. I articulated what we were working on today, and the objectives were the skills and the standards.
We are going to be voicing our opinions, especially when we're unsatisfied with the conversation, and of course always using our text for support.
I use this language with students, and the students are starting to use it for themselves and with each other.
I'd really like to use the text from either one of or any of the essays to support what I'm saying to make it more in-depth.
And allows us to have a common ground with which to discuss what English language arts actually is and what we're supposed to be learning, what I'm supposed to be teaching, how this particular student is doing on a particular standard.
I think you should look into your article more and use that to kind of synthesize what other people say.
So for example, on my speaking scoring guide, I broke down the standard into different parts. Is a student citing specific evidence to support points? Is a student evaluating the multiple perspectives? Is a student integrating multiple texts in conversation with one another? The language of the Common Core and the skills have enabled me to define what proficiency looks like for reading, for speaking, for listening, for writing.
Before we do our seminar, I'd like for us to do some goal setting today.
The Common Core has become a part of my teacher DNA. It is the blueprint of my unit plans. It is the blueprint of my lesson plans. It also has become the blueprint of my grade book.
Coaches, you're going to complete the scoring guide on the front side of the green paper.
So in my grade book, the categories that I have are reading of literature, reading of informational texts, speaking, discussion, speaking, presentation, listening, writing in the different modes, academic language. And what's wonderful about this is that when a student goes into his or her grade printout, they can see very clearly, okay, I'm proficient at speaking. I'm really struggling with writing. And they are able to identify for themselves what their strengths and weaknesses are in this discipline. And parents can also see this, and when they come for student conferences and parent conferences, we just get straight to the heart of the matter. My student's really having a hard time making inferences in literature. How can we help our son or daughter do that?